18 kids killed in a school fire. Locked dorm room doors blocked their chance to escape. Now their families are being silenced and made to sign compensation agreements. Armed police, caged pigeons, canine dogs. That's the scene ahead of the Chinese Communist Party's anniversary party. The regime is turning 100 in just a few days and is kicking off the milestone with extravagant ceremonies funded by taxpayers. Hong Kong authorities arrest a senior journalist at the airport. He was trying to leave the city for the UK. The man had worked for now-closed pro-democracy newspaper Apple Daily. And foreign correspondents working for China's state-run media may actually double as spies. This, according to a former editor-in-chief for a Chinese media outlet. He says he's issued media IDs to Chinese intelligence personnel. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. 18 children tragically lost their lives in a midnight fire in China. Locked in their dorm rooms, they weren't able to escape. Local authorities are now working to block information about the accident from spreading online.
At least 18 students are dead and 16 more injured following a fire inside a martial arts school in central China. Flames ignited inside Zhengxing International Fight Club Training Center Friday night, located in Shangqiu City inside Henan Province. According to Chinese media outlet Xinhua Net, over 30 people were rescued. The victims range between 7 and 16 years old. The doors leading to their dorm rooms were reported locked at night when the fire broke out.
Fire broke out at around 2. Police were called at around 3. There was not even one adult. Why did they lock the door? Isn't it murder? My son told me kids often feel hungry due to their many physical activities. The school was afraid that the kids would go grab food by themselves at night, so they locked the doors.
Though the martial arts school was registered with the state, the building was reportedly not up to safety code required for a training facility. That's according to the local fire department. One father expressed relief that his son was among the survivors, but explained he doesn't know the specifics of what happened. In a text message to Reuters, he wrote, "All information is being blocked." After the incident, Beijing dismissed the local Communist Party secretary as well as the mayor from their posts. 3 suspects have been taken into custody, including the founder of the school. Grieving parents were blocked from seeing their children's remains until the next day after protests erupted. But authorities separated the parents from each other, an apparent effort to block the spread of information.
They isolated families that lost their kids. Each family is staying in a separate hotel. Some are now in the hospital, some are in hotels. We don't know the details.
Authorities are now forcing them to sign compensation agreements. Information related to the fire has been removed from social media.
As families face the aftermath of the fire, Chinese media outlets seem unusually quiet. They're not covering the accident, instead blocking all online comments about the incident. And it may have something to do with upcoming celebrations in Beijing. The news comes as preparations are in full swing for the Chinese Communist Party's 100th anniversary, set for July 1st. Authorities have planned multiple displays and large-scale ceremonies to mark the event. Likewise, China's state-run media have orders to only cover stories that highlight what's seen as the regime's success and boosts its reputation. Chinese media did report on the incident, noting the 18 students who perished. The next day, the media reported that local authorities, including the mayor and the Communist Party secretary in charge of the county, were removed from their posts and face criminal investigation. On top of that, parents of students who survived told Reuters that they didn't know much about their children's lives at the school. That's because they weren't allowed to visit and outgoing information was blocked. Comments about the fire on Chinese social media platforms soon began disappearing, getting either deleted or blocked. Related hashtags didn't make the top trending list either, instead appearing a few pages down. But while reports were hushed, Chinese media attention was directed toward another incident, this time in the U.S. The collapse of a residential high-rise building in Florida instead surged to the top of the list, quickly becoming one of the day's trending topics on social media. One social media user commented on the apparent disconnect, writing, "Chinese people celebrated when Americans died, but when Chinese people died, they knew nothing about it." Caged pigeons, blocked roads, armed police, canine units, and locals on patrol. That's the scene in Beijing. The city is just a couple of days away from the Communist Party's 100th anniversary celebration on July 1st. Video spotted over 220 buses packed with soldiers driving into the celebration venue, Beijing National Stadium, more commonly known as the Bird's Nest for its appearance. Witnesses say these soldiers dress in camouflage and carry guns. The Bird's Nest is now illuminated from the inside out. Residents speculate these soldiers serve as security during the Chinese Communist Party's or CCP's birthday party. A fireworks ceremony rehearsal lit up the sky last Tuesday. According to Radio Free Asia, the test run cost Chinese taxpayers almost $11 million. But showered by the fleeting sparkles, Beijing's atmosphere is getting more tense. Troops that usually perform what's called stability maintenance or patrolling city streets for lawbreakers are now gathering near the heart of the city. Their numbers focus within a few miles of Beijing's Tiananmen Square, the center of the city. Among those troops, soldiers armed with guns, uniformed police, plainclothes police, canine dog units, and even aunties from surrounding residential communities. These older women, often called aunties in Asian culture, wear red armbands. They are tasked with monitoring the flow of residents in and out of their communities, something they believe is part of protecting Party Central. City regulations are also tightening, and it's even affecting local mail deliveries. China's Ministry of Public Security and Ministry of State Security co-signed a regulation with China Post, the country's mail service. It requires all packages headed to Beijing to be X-rayed. After the screening, each box gets a scan approval sticker. What's more, these parcels must go through a second scan before delivery. If they don't pass, they don't get delivered. Humans aren't the only ones feeling the effects of the ceremony preparation. Some animals are too. Home-raised pigeons are also subject to new restrictions. In one Beijing district, pigeon owners are banned from letting their birds fly outdoors for 2 weeks straight, from mid-June to July 1st. In 8 other districts, the pigeons can only fly after 3 p.m. Balloons are also prohibited. The only exceptions are birds and balloons to be used for the ceremony. On top of that, nearby roads are blocked ahead of the anniversary. Beijing's police bureau announced a roadblock in the vicinity of the venue for 3 days. All nearby tourist attractions are also temporarily closed. A retired professor from the CCP Central Party School who fled China years ago commented on the news via Twitter, saying the CCP is celebrating its 100th year, but it's making it look like an imminent catastrophe. Another post poses a question, asking, why does the CCP need so many external enemies? Adding, because if these external enemies cease to exist, the people would discover it's actually the CCP that is the enemy of the people. Hard to believe, the Chinese Communist Party's torture of prisoners of conscience. With limited reports on China's prison system, not much information has been made public. We spoke with one Chinese man who shares his experience of being illegally detained in a Chinese prison.
June 26th is a day to support victims of torture throughout the world every year. This year, a man from China is disclosing the torture he experienced there.
First, they made me take a cold shower, and before that, they had opened the window and door and a frozen bucket of water. It was about negative 30 degrees Celsius.
That's around negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. This happened back in 2008. As people in China celebrated on New Year's Eve, Wang Hong spent his first day in prison. He had been sentenced to 4 years in prison for refusing to give up his faith in a spiritual meditation practice called Falun Dafa. Falun Dafa, also known as Falun Gong, is a meditation system first made public in 1992. It soon gained widespread popularity in the country via word of mouth. But in 1999, then Chinese Communist Party leader Jiang Zemin took unexpected action. Threatened by its growing numbers and emphasis on free thinking and moral character, he launched a large-scale persecution campaign against Falun Dafa, as these values go against China's communist ideology. Those detained in China are often exposed to various kinds of torture methods, and Wang was no exception. But there was one method that sticks out in his memory: the sharp-edged stool.
I have now made a small stool that mimics the size and shape of the sharp-edged stool. They would make you sit on the edge, and it's really painful. You can't bear it for very long.
The sharp-edged stool is narrow and unable to sit on. When Wang fell off, police kicked him in the back, directly where his heart is.
With your leg raised up high and then digging down, I felt a saltiness in my throat, like when coughing up blood. Your body, bones, and organs all become very painful.
When Wang refused to sit, he was hit in the back of the neck with a wooden board and passed out. As soon as he recovered a little, prison guards would repeat the torture methods, first pouring ice water on him, then the sharp-edged stool, then beatings. He soon discovered he was not the only Falun Gong practitioner subjected to these tortures.
They'd also hit your head against the wall and say all the blood on the wall came from your Falun Gong practitioners. If you die, we just sign a paper and claim you died naturally.
Wang says he was also denied sleep and faced repeated torture aimed at making him renounce his faith. Within just 2 days, Wang was bedridden by the torture. He explained that by that point, he just couldn't sleep because of the pain, and that it would take him 40 minutes just to roll over in bed. Wang was confined to bed for half a year. Before he had fully recovered, prison guards forced him to perform forced labor. The torture left scars on his neck and lower body. A 2020 U.S. State Department report says Chinese law prohibits physical abuse and mistreatment of detainees. But the report notes numerous reports of people enduring torture while in Chinese custody.
Hong Kong authorities arrested a senior journalist at the airport on Sunday. The man worked for the now-closed pro-democracy newspaper Apple Daily. He was trying to leave the city for the UK.
According to South China Morning Post, the Hong Kong police said that they arrested the man for conspiring to collude with foreign countries or foreign forces to endanger national security. The police typically do not identify the individual, but South China Morning Post reported that the man is 57-year-old Fang Wai-kong. Hong Kong pro-democracy newspaper Apple Daily printed its final copy last Thursday and was forced to close. Earlier this month, authorities froze $2.3 million worth of company assets and detained the paper's top executives, including the editor-in-chief. The Morning Post reported that Hong Kong's Security Bureau requested that Apple Daily hand over a list of employees and other sensitive information, noting that city authorities will only release its assets once the company agrees. The publication needs those funds in order to pay outstanding wages to its employees. Some staff members opposed the idea, saying that authorities may retaliate against them. If confirmed, Fun is the 7th person at the paper arrested in 2 weeks. The 7 of them were either journalists or executives. They were all arrested under the national security law imposed by Beijing. The crackdown on Apple Daily seems to follow an instruction in March by the director of China's Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office. He said that the Chinese regime's principle of patriots governing Hong Kong should be extended from public officials to the judiciary, the education sector, and the media. Beijing's so-called patriots refer to people that support the communist regime.
2 leading U.S. senators are calling on President Biden to sanction those responsible for forcing the closure of Hong Kong's Apple Daily. They are suggesting that foreign banks are among them.
2 leading U.S. senators have called on President Joe Biden to punish those responsible for the shutdown of Hong Kong's Apple Daily newspaper. That comes as Hong Kong promoted security officials to top roles in government, a move critics say will tighten China's grip on the territory. Senators Pat Toomey and Chris Van Hollen say Biden should use the Hong Kong Autonomy Act passed last year, which requires sanctions on persons and entities that directly undermine Hong Kong's autonomy, and secondary sanctions on banks that do business with them. In their letter to Biden, Toomey and Van Hollen further suggested foreign banks could be implicated, referring to threats made by Hong Kong Security Secretary John Lee last month. Lee had threatened HSBC and Citibank with up to 7 years in jail for any financial dealings with Apple Daily owner Jimmy Lai. Lee also ordered the banks to freeze Jimmy Lai's accounts. The White House and State Department did not immediately respond to requests for comment. On Thursday, Biden called the Apple Daily's closure a sad day for media freedom and said it signaled intensifying repression by China. He vowed to maintain support for the people of Hong Kong without mentioning any plans for sanctions. Meanwhile, John Lee was promoted to Hong Kong's chief secretary position on Friday, second only to chief executive Carrie Lam, while police chief Chris Tang will take Lee's current position.
Hong Kong authorities are issuing a black rainstorm warning due to torrential rain on Monday. Floodwaters gushed over some roads. The city temporarily suspended its stock trading session. The Hong Kong Observatory issued the city's first black rainstorm warning this year. This is the highest after Amber and Red. Several districts recorded more than 2.7 inches of rainfall, with the highest at 5.9 inches. Videos show water triggered by the storm gushing over railings and flooding an administrative office building on an island. Due to the extreme weather, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange canceled its Monday trading session. Schools are closed, CCP virus vaccination suspended, and court hearings postponed. Coming up, foreign correspondents working for China's state-run media could actually double as spies. This according to a former editor-in-chief for a Chinese media outlet. He says he's issued media IDs to Chinese intelligence personnel. More on that after the break.
Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.
A former industry insider is exposing how Chinese state-run media operate overseas. He says if a Chinese state media reporter approaches you, that person could actually be a spy. He tells NTD he's personally issued media IDs to Chinese state intelligence personnel in the past. NTD's Don Ma has more.
Cheng Kai used to work as a reporter for the CCP's official newspaper, People's Daily. He tells NTD that a significant number of Chinese state media reporters working outside China are spying for the CCP.
Reporters sent abroad are mainly from Xinhua News Agency, People's Daily. A considerable part of their task is actually doing intelligence work for the CCP.
Cheng is also a former editor-in-chief for another Chinese state media, Hainan Daily, and he says that a lot of state media reporters are from Beijing's intelligence departments.
Chinese intelligence units are heavily engaged in activities outside the country, as reporters for People's Daily or Xinhua News Agency. If you see a reporter from People's Daily or Xinhua News Agency, if they approach you, you have to wonder whether they are an intelligence officer. So Chinese media outlets under the leadership of the party, they are not purely media outlets.
Cheng can testify to his claims from personal experience. When he was editor-in-chief for Hainan Daily, CCP officials asked him to issue media IDs for people in Beijing's security and public security department. And other than intelligence gathering, state media reporters have another job, promoting communism and socialism.
The other task is to promote the CCP's tenets abroad, especially in the U.S. Its tenets are communism and socialism. This kind of propaganda in the U.S. is very prominent, to the point where it cannot be eradicated. CCTV has an entire office floor in Washington, D.C. It produces programs within the U.S., it broadcasts within the U.S., and it's on cable TV.
Cheng goes further to say that nearly all Chinese language media in the U.S. and even some mainstream U.S. media may have been compromised by the CCP. That is, except 3.
Chinese language media in the U.S., except for a few, such as the Epoch Times, NTD, and Sound of Hope, there is almost no outlet that does not face infiltration and bribery from the CCP. Mainstream media in the U.S., most of them speak well of China too. There's very few journalists who can maintain their independence, independent reporting, independent thinking.
Chinese state-run media's propaganda efforts in the U.S. are significant. U.S.-based data collection firm Center for Responsive Politics reports that Xinhua News Agency's foreign lobbying spending in the U.S. alone shot up more than 500% since 2016, amounting to $64 million as of 2020. One of its more apparent propaganda efforts is the billboard Xinhua has leased in Times Square. Last month, Xinhua officially registered as a foreign agent in the U.S. Don Ma, NTD News.
New allegations are coming out that Chinese scientists deleted crucial early virus data. It could have given more insight into how the CCP virus spreads. According to a research paper from the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center in Washington, D.C., scores of data containing the genetic information of the CCP virus were deleted from the databases of the U.S. National Institutes of Health. That's an international database for the purpose of monitoring the development of the virus. And the agency is under the U.S. Health Department and is among the world's top medical research centers. The research paper argues that Chinese scientists may have deleted the genetic information to obscure their existence. It says that's because there was no scientific reason for the deletion. The study also points out that this early virus genetic data is a gold mine for anyone seeking to understand the spread of the virus, adding that understanding the spread of the coronavirus in Wuhan is crucial to tracing the origins of the virus. The research center's virus expert, Jesse Bloom, authorized the study. He has been vocal in discussions surrounding the origins of the CCP virus. Last month, he co-signed a letter with 17 other scientists, urging U.S. officials to further investigate the lab leak theory. 1/3 of the sponsors for this year's European Football Championships are Chinese companies, making China the largest financier of the event. This has caused concerns in Europe. 4 major Chinese companies, including TikTok, Alipay, Vivo, and Hisense, are among the 12 sponsors of the Euro Cup. The sponsorship helps Chinese companies gain visibility on the international stage. Chinese state-run media considers it a political win for China. But corporate sponsorships coming from authoritarian states are what concerns Europe. German carmaker Volkswagen is the only European company among the sponsors. Swiss media reported that European values are not represented in the event by the sponsoring companies. A long line wrapped around a theater in Connecticut over the weekend. That's as eager audience members waited for the doors to open to see Shen Yun performing arts. There, many people expressed hope after a year of lockdown. Let's check it out.
As the U.S. slowly recovers from the pandemic, Shen Yun starts its 2021 tour with 3 sold-out performances this weekend at Stamford, Connecticut's Palace Theater.
Wonderful. Yeah, very beautiful. I love that it's done in vignettes and tells the story. It brings a lot. You know, we didn't know anything about it coming to see it, and it sets it up and then shows us the story. It's in nice, it's very well done.
Audience members say it's an uplifting and educational experience.
Oh, I've been smiling the entire time. Just the colors, the flow, the story, all of it.
I think the singer was amazing. The singer was very, very good. The storyline, how it's explained. For somebody like us that never experienced something like this is very, very important, the way they were explaining it.
I think several of the stories that went through what I'll say is the intervention of a deity into the day-to-day just gives a lot of us hope.
Shen Yun Performing Arts' mission is to revive 5,000 years of Chinese culture, a divinely inspired culture from before communism took over.
It's a very divine culture, and it's a very old and ancient culture, and it should not be forgotten. It basically creates awareness with Shen Yun that ancient Chinese culture should come back, and it should challenge the communist regime as well, and maybe someday it will prevail over communism in China.
I think also understanding what I'll say is the origins of your culture had just helped to bring people together. You need to have more shows because the West needs to hear the origins of China, not what we just see in movies today.
The performance is returning by popular demand with 3 more shows at the Palace Theater in July.
And that's all for today's China in Focus. But before you go, be sure to check out our latest special report on Epoch TV. Wall Street's love affair with the Chinese regime is no secret, but it's becoming more of a concern.
So our priority is not to get access for Goldman Sachs in China. Our priority is to make sure that we are dealing with China's trade abuses that are harming American jobs.
As Beijing's autocratic regime furthers its goals to replace the U.S. as the world's leader, it begs the question, do we really want big banks to get even more involved with the Chinese regime? It could end with them funneling more American investors' money, your money, into communist China, all while boosting their economy, funding their military, and facilitating their human rights abuses. That's on top of the fact that some of these are passive investments that most Americans don't even know about. In this special report, we explore how exactly Wall Street funnels money into China, what the magnitude of the wealth transfer is, and the regime's unsettling ultimate purpose for buddying up with Wall Street. China in Focus is partnering with the platform, where you can watch our exclusive content every Friday night. In them, we'll explore questions like how China lures in foreign companies to steal their technology, how the Chinese regime is actively collecting health data on people around the world, how the ancient Chinese philosophy of good governance differs from the current-day communist regime, and much more. Be sure to check out these investigative episodes by clicking on the link in the description down below. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you really want to understand what's happening with China. You can still watch our Monday to Thursday episodes for free on YouTube, NTD Cable TV, the NTD website, and the Epoch TV website. Thanks for watching, and see you tomorrow.